Who else is on that Star Trek casting list? Today on Trekland Tuesdays Live with me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek, coming at you right here from the heart of Trekland for some, hey, clarity, sanity, and the big picture in all of Star Trek. All across Trekland. Hey, everybody. Whew, it's been one of those days. Yeah. Fighting the gremlins and allergies and all kinds of stuff. But hey, here we are again. Thanks for all of our regulars being here with me, populating the chat here, I hope. And if you're new to TTL and the alerts are getting out, hang on. It's maybe a little bit different than you're used to somewhere else. I'm coming at you right now live. If you're watching us later on YouTube, that's awesome. It'll be a shorter version. But live here right now, we'll have live chat after the break, and we'll look at the Parrot Analytics streaming TV ratings, quote unquote, after I have this little soapbox, okay? But hang on. It's also, I should point out, it's not just a Trekland Tuesday, guys. It's a Trekland third Tuesday of the month. That means we'll have a 24-hour flash hot deal out of Trekland after the break. Well, actually, before the break, too, or what's the point, right? So, hey, it's just in the last 24 hours, I've seen a couple of stories. It's something that comes back around for me. And again, jump in here in the chat if you're new. I will get to all these questions and comments, especially if you're new, especially if you have a real question for Dr. Trek. I'll get to all of this after the break. So hang with me right now for a minute. Because in the last couple of days, I mean, this comes and goes, but I'm always a little amused. But then, hey, context is not for kings, despite what you may think, Discovery title writers. Context is for everybody. And I've seen the last couple of days, for one thing, it's funny how this came up. Wesley Snipes, the Wesley Snipes, had a mention that's been picked up a couple of places about commenting how he was in the running for Geordi back in the original casting days of Next Generation in the spring of '87, which is true. But I love how that kind of makes a news splash. It's just a reminder that, you have to refresh everything every 5 or 6 years. So much old is not new. Well, it is new again, apparently. And then an RIP of all actors and characters as we watch the scene go by. An RIP for Yaphet Kotto, who could not pass by without at least one or two people saying he was up for Picard. And what a mind-blowing thing that would have been before Cisco was to be the first Star Trek African-American captain. Lead captain, we should say. There was Twyla Scott. And then there was the captain of the Saratoga, among others. But my point is today, the soapbox today is, I want to share with you a little bit of the actual, the casting perspective, because it's an industry that's changed a lot and then not changed in how things are formally done, especially when it comes to casting TV pilots, because you're looking for a regular cast and then the secondary guest stars come next. But it's very important to get that casting process right. Shows can be made or broken. They can be destroyed in the casting process. I'm sure there's all kind of clickbaity YouTubes out there where you can see how the casting of fill in the blank destroyed X number of series, even maybe movies. And that's true. You also see where movies were even, especially if they're in a franchise, if they're trying to be a tentpole, where a lot of movies were completely just rebooted a few years later. I mean, one of the famous ones is Carl Ryder. Carl Ryder, his wonderful sitcom creation of a TV writer in New Rochelle, New York, where he cast himself as Rob Petrie, and the pilot didn't do well. And the minute he said, I'm going to step back and be executive producer, I'm going to cast somebody else and let's get Dick Van Dyke, bang. That's one of the more famous recasts of a pilot in history. All in the Family recast with the son-in-law and daughter. Went through 2 or 3 pilots. Always with Carol O'Connor, though, and Gene Stapleton. Look, TV history is littered with those kind of things where they reshot the pilot. Oh, I don't know. Maybe a little show called Star Trek had the same thing happen to it, right? So casting is really important. Sometimes it's about availability. It can be a lot about availability, but a lot of times it's just who works through the process. It's a process. And so, yeah, Headlines here. Wesley Snipes in for Geordi? Yes, but he wasn't even the number 2. I mean, over the years, I've done this topic in writing. I mean, the process is outlined in the TNG Companion for Next Generation. It's all pretty much, in short, it's there. But in 2007, I did a 20th anniversary of Next Generation series about the casting process by time, by week. Every, I think, Thursday, I did an update. Don't worry, it's all wiped now. In the big StarTrek.com blow up, shutdown, freeze out for 4 years before the modern iteration came in and licensing got the keys back to the car from Interactive. Most of that text is, well, it's locked away, but it's broken and it needs to be fixed. But, I mean, I have all my original text. But the main thing was, what was a great hunt here is that was what prompted me to look around, and I found the people who originally bought Bob Justman's casting notes. Now, look, infamously, Voyager, right? The whole Captain Janeway casting. I was just talking about this with someone the other day. We went through a whole process that barely led to Geneviève Bujold, held up the whole production, and then held it up for 3 days more before things circled back around to Kate Mulgrew. But casting is an issue, and someone's always the easiest to cast, and some roles are always the last to be cast for whatever reason, infamously, in Star Trek. We just had the casting announcement. Congrats and welcome to the family. The casting announcement for all the unknown cast members beyond Pike, Spock, and number 1 who are going to be part of Strange New Worlds. So congratulations to all of them. Many of them fresh faces to us, some of them not fresh faces to the industry. So that's going to be an interesting mix. And once again, we get to see a baby cast get their space legs together with maybe some seasoned parents in the room. That's going to be fun. But it, again, shines a light on the casting process. And in 10 years, how will we look back at this? And famously, the Next Generation cast announcement in the real world, say the AP, was listed on clout, and marqueability was, oh, look, new Star Trek is cast with the star of Roots, LeVar Burton, the star from last summer's big hit Stand By Me, a kid actor named Will Wheaton, and a very famous Shakespearean thespian from the UK who's been in Dune and I, Claudius, and some other people. And that's, and Bing Crosby's granddaughter. Okay, that was kind of the way it fell down. It's fun to go back and look at casting process. And thanks to an auction, when the auction era was going full bore, when the original series folks were first dumping their stuff, I got in touch with the folks who bought Bob Justman's casting notes. And no, I don't have them. I don't care about them as a collect. I mean, they'd be cool. I don't care about them as collectibles so much as I care about the facts. I'm a fact collector, not a doctor. And so, look, here's a binders full of casting notes. I've got some of them. And again, guys, I've had an allergy mess today, so bear with me, okay? But I did a narrative for that series in 2007. But hey, that's been a generation ago already. Who here among us read my stories on StarTrek.com in 2007? It's in the ether. It's not even like you can have a communicator put back, much less a fact file or a Titan magazine. So you talk about Yaphet Kotto, you talk about Wesley Snipes. Now, here's the thing. As documents have come to light and a lot of scans have been put out there on the internet, some of them not even from the fact files, much has been made about a very famous one here from April 23rd. It's titled Contenders. And it basically has the top 5 or top 6 for everybody. And now this is from April 23rd, 1987, which seems early. Hey, the casting call went out on December, was it 12th? 12th of the 16th. Casting call went out in mid-December, famously with Julian Picard and Riker with a Y and Leslie Crusher, the girl wonder, right? There were still tweaks being made. And most of all, you've got Macha Hernandez as a security chief. Talk about a casting choice, right? This Contenders memo from April was really after things started getting, the people were being seen live in LA. They were coming out on tape from around the world, New York and elsewhere. And depending on the stature of the actor, if they were young beginning actors for some of the young beginning roles, The casting folks, even some casting associates, not even the casting director, saw people, and people were put up the chain. But as much as seeing actors was also a wish list that goes out. People would love to have, I'd love to have a Robbie Duncan McNeil type for this Paris character. And eventually maybe somebody just goes and gets Robert Duncan McNeil. That happens. Those kinds of things happen. And a lot of times on the wish list, you get, yeah, we want these folks. The wish list for, that's what you hear about sometimes when you say, so-and-so was considered for Picard. That's where you get, okay, I'm just going to read some of these. And that's where you see people say, well, I don't do TV. I'm not really interested. I've got a movie coming up. And you have people who are, they still may come in and read. They might just have an interview, right? Patrick eventually did actually do an interview. I mean, did a little bit of a reading with and without his hairpiece. But the lists of, and some of the folks, God bless them, you never heard their name again for all kinds. I'm just looking here. Here's Don Cheadle for Geordi was on the wish list, the contact list. I mean, there's tons like that. There's tons like that. Here's a narrative, though. This contenders list, yeah, looky here, April 23rd. But the first wave of the memos and casting and looking at people on tape was in mid-March. And things move fast. You may hear Jonathan talk about having to go back through 5 and 6 calls, and he did. But it was 5 and 6 calls over 4 weeks, 6 weeks. That was nerve-wracking. Yeah, he was one of the last ones. He and Billy Campbell were neck and neck for it, and he edged him out. I've done shows at cons before. That's code for now someone will do a YouTube video on it. But I don't think they have. People have done the study. I did this live with all the famous number 2s. If the Next Generation cast had been the number 2 choices. That's a fun story. The fun thing is that almost everybody who was a number 2 on the Next Generation cast wound up guest starring, if not Next Generation, very soon. In fact, there was one that wasn't until the very end of Enterprise, which was a lot of fun. Who was it? I'll tell you in a second, but if I said the words, Uncle Phil. Yeah, James Avery, who played one of the Klingon generals in the bumps. In the bumps? No bumps. Demons, yeah, in Affliction. He was one of the 3 when Worf was cast as an afterthought because he was just a part-time recurring character in the beginning. James Avery was one of the 3 finalists to read for Worf, and you know who one of the other ones was. So yes, we talk about Yaphet Kotto being in the running as of April 23rd. And you know the famous story about Bob Justman seeing Patrick Stewart at a UCLA Shakespeare lab, looking at Jackie, his wife, and saying, I think we just found our captain. But then having to convince Gene, because Gene was in love with the idea of a French captain, to distinguish this from an American captain, who was really Canadian, Iowa-bred Kirk. And, you know, English got the point across just as well, I guess, a bald Englishman. But still in the running on this same list of 5 favorites for Picard on April 29. Then again, this is a sheet you've probably seen out there. This is like one of 300, but it's kind of a summary at the time. And yeah, you've got Bill Campbell over here with Jonathan Frakes. 2 other actors, Michael O'Gorman and Greg Mark. Those are the top 4 for Riker for number 1 at this time. Everything is number 1. Yes. And you got Eric Menyuk, number 2, to Brent Spiner originally for Data. Also with Mark Lindsay Chapman and Kelvin Van Yee, who's in San Francisco. Picard also has Stephen Mocht, who played Over General Krim on the trilogy that opened DS9's the Circle trilogy on DS9's second season. Stephen Mocht is kind of famously even been acknowledged on documentaries and Blu-rays now as the number 2 to Picard. But also here at this 5 contenders is Mitch Ryan, who played Riker's dad, which is fun later on, and Roy Thynes. So there's your 5 contenders. Stephen Mocht has an NA not available after his name, though. Oh, well. And look here, in the Geordi 6 contenders, Reggie Johnson, Tim Russ, who was the number 2, why he was on the radar so much for guest spots before he was Tuvok. LeVar Burton, Wesley Snipes in New York, Kevin Peter Hall, and Stephen Burks. Guys, I told you my allergies are really messing up today. There you go. Those are like the leaders. And again, this memo is out there. So yeah, when you hear Wesley Snipes talk about being in there, and I love the way he put this. If you didn't see the tweet, he said something about in the running for Next Generation, but a much better actor wound up playing Geordi. And hats off to it, which is a very classic way. Look, here's the thing. Again, it's fun to look through the wrong end of the telescope at all this, because we see this now. This has been 30 years ago. We know 34 years ago now. We know what happened, on their end of this. But at the time, Wesley Snipes, I mean, his, Mo Better Blues and his run with Spike Lee, that was all much less Passenger 57 and on down and all his action movies. That was all 4 or 5 years. That was the early 90s. This is 1987, and he's just now starting to get bit parts. This would have been a huge break for him, as opposed to that old star who leads the AP stories, LeVar Burton. Okay. So you did Roots. What else have you done for me lately? Everybody's got their thing where they are. But this is, again, looking at the late April. Before you got to that point, though, I mean, March 18th, we have a memo from Helen Mosler to Junie Lowry. Helen Mosler was the casting executive at Paramount TV. Junie Lowry was the hands-on. Macha Hernandez is still very much being, of course. Don Cheadle for Geordi, Matthew Perry for Wesley. These are folks who were actually submitted. Matthew Perry this is years before Friends, right? James McDaniel, who wound up going on to NYPD Blue, Lieutenant Fancy, playing for Geordi, have met for Picard. Patrick Stewart, Stephen Mocht, Paul Shinar, and also actor named Derek Branch, who really should read for Data and was met for number 1. And then we have availabilities and interests. Here's your wish list back in mid-March. Len Carew, big Broadway star who wound up playing the first incarnation of Admiral Janeway. He was available, but he's high money. Patrick McGowan was available and interested. James Sicking was available and interested. Tom Skerritt, not available. He's doing a movie called Dirty Work. Okay. Mark Singer, that you probably best know from V, he was available and interested. And Michael Ontkean. Oh, he's not interested. He's in a series. But this is the way of casting. You should know that for Macha Hernandez, the security guard, people like, Vanessa Williams was available and interested. Claudia Christian was available and interested for Troy. And again, this is before the switch, right? And David Alan Grier was unavailable. He was doing Kingpins. David Alan Grier. So, here you go. On March 19th, it's now, it's first it's Tanya. You've had enough progression here where they're looking at swapping. They're swapping the characters now because of the reading of Denise Crosby, who came in for Troy, because nobody knew what a Beta Z looked like. Nobody knew what a Talaxian looked like. Nobody knew what a Denobulan looked like. Denobulans and Talaxians weren't even named until the species name didn't come up until the first episode after the pilot was written. Julia Nixon, who you may remember for a couple different roles over the way, and later on, Bob just been headed down as a 2.5 out of 4 stars. Good for Troy, excellent. And then Sheryl Mcfadden. Bob's notes have her beautiful. Yes, have her in for producer readings. These are on producer readings. Daniel Hugh Kelly reading for Riker for number 1. Didn't make it, but he was Sojeff Insurrection. I mean, he was television father. Here you've got Marina Serdis reading for Tasha before the big change, and Tim Russ on this day, March 25th. Tim Russ reading for Geordi. Excellent. Here, notes on March 25th. Patrick Stewart coming in from London, April 1st at 2:30. And LeVar Burton and Eric Pierpoint reading for number 1. They're out of town till next week, so we can't read them then. So here we go. The March 31st memo we talked about. Anna Katarina reading for Troy. Eric Pierpoint reading for number 1. John Lithgow on the wannabes for number 1. Just throwing it out there, right? So here we go down to April 22nd. And remember, they're going to be shooting in summer, but they want to get this solidified, right? Or May, I should say. April 27th, casting notes. Reading for the producers, not the studio yet, right? John Delancey, 2.5 stars plus. Reading for Q. Also maybe for Riker. Here's Will Wheaton for Wesley. Good actor, appealing, honesty. This is Bob Justman, so he's got notes on this, his own notes. Colomini, a write-in. Reading a last-minute write-in. Reading for Data. That's interesting. We'll put him to work somewhere. April 23rd, the next day, looking at tapes of people. Susan Gibney for Tasha. She just graduated from Yale, end of May. She will have just graduated, fresh out of school. And of course, Susan Gibney playing Leah Brahms and Captain Benteen. And in the audition huge cycle, even among the millions looked at for, one of the finalists looked at for Janeway before it went to Genevieve. Now we're getting to the final days here. April 23rd for Picard. Mike Farrell? Nope. He's high money and he's producing a movie, Domino, and he's in UK. Yeah. Nope. Sorry. Patrick Stewart is in town. Go see the same show that Bob saw months back. Yeah. Q. Charles Keating, Howie Mandel, Howie Mandel not available. Maybe a guest spot. Billy Crystal, too busy. John Delancey, per our last conversation with Agent, that John would love to do it, but he's ethically and personally tied to a play in Japan until June 14th. And then he leaves the next day and he arrives the next day. Here's Ricky Schroeder look up for Wesley. He's got Movies of the Week features and a network series. Only he wants Movies of the Week features and a network series. Only if a series. And he'll need money to test. Well, that's going to plus that. So here you still got Julia Nixon, Rosalind Chow for Tasha on the wish list. She came back from a South Africa movie on May 1st. Would defer 2 weeks in London to come back if serious. If serious, right? And this is all in flux. Now, on April 23rd, Thursday, reading for Gene Roddenberry and Jeff Hayes, head of Paramount TV. We've got Denise Crosby reading for Troy. Maybe Tasha, question mark. Jonathan Frakes, number 1. He's a young Shatner. Smirky and a bit smarmy. Mitch Ryan for Picard. Eric Minyuk for Data. Bill Campbell for number 1. And Bob has a winner. Brent Spiner for Data. Sign the deal. Will Wheaton for Wesley. And now the next day, April 24th, a Friday. Again, reading for Gene and head of the studio. Now, there were some who read in the mid-range for this. We said Marta Dubois, who wound up playing Ardra, as the god that came back to haunt the planet. They're reading John Delancey on this day. Roy Thynes for Picard. Am I saying his name right? Here's Marina reading for Tasha again. Ryder in for Troy. Tim reading for Geordi again. Kevin Peter Hall for Geordi. Marta Dubois again for Tasha. Not as exotic as the English girl. Mariska Hargitay reading for all those women roles that they were flexy about, but she's out of town till Friday night. And here's Sheryl Mcfadden is coming in on Tuesday, the 28th, to read. April the 27th, Monday, callbacks. 2 each for Troy, Data, Tasha, and Beverly. This is amazing. Marta Dubois, who wound up being number 2, I'll just tell you. The second choice for both Troy and Dr. Crusher for Beverly before they switched roles around. I know. What if you were number 2 for not 1 but 2 roles? She didn't make it in as a guest. She's another one of those who made it for guest actress. Here's Marina Serdis reading for Troy now with the big switch. Intelligent reading, has mystery, looks exotic, should use her alien accent, Bob writes in his notes. Brent Spiner for Data. Touching, sensitive, affects me more emotionally. Yeah. Denise Crosby for Tasha. Just make her all blonde. Jenny Agater. Didn't read, but was submitted for Beverly. And wound up being number 2 in the choice. They're still making notes on people. We're seeing people on tape. Oliver Cotton for Picard. Bianca Jagger for Troy. Iman for Troy. Because Troy was... Betazoids were exotic, and who knew what that meant? Maria Conchito Alonso was not available and didn't want to do a series. Tia Carrera, maybe read for Troy, but she's only 20. She's available. Anyway, here we're getting down to the nitty gritty on the 27th, reading for producers. Right. Red Kent McCord from Emergency for Picard. Olivia Hussey for Troy. But she's older than Billy Campbell. Lots of intelligence and mystery, though. Jane Badler from V, you know her for at the end reading for Troy, but doesn't look like an alien. Here you go, May 18th. That's the April 27th readings. What happened there? Jonathan Frakes was down to the end here. Look, they wound up reading he and Billy Campbell down to the end. Jonathan read on May 4th. Billy Campbell read on May 1st. And first sign we have paper-wise is on May 13th. All the legal memos went out to all the actors. Hey, you got it. Welcome to the family. We're having a warm-up lunch. Now, of course, there were some guest castings here, too. And I promised you this. On May 18th, for that recurring character of Worf, they read a young actor named Michael Dorn, a young actor named James Avery, and another actor named James Lewis Watkins. Those were the 3. All 3 of them got used. James Lewis Watkins, not his fault, wound up being cast as one of the leads, I think Lutan, in Code of Honor. Not his fault. And of all the 3 of them, they have Michael Dorn listed as better for a straight role. Right? They've got their heights down, 6'3", 6'4". Welcome to the world of casting. So, right. When you see people's names tossed around as he was considered, he was cast, he was in the running, was he a runner-up? Sometimes they're just on a wish list. Sometimes they are actually read. But I love going, no one who knew who Mariska Hargitay was at the time, aside from somebody might have known she was what's-her-name's daughter, but she was actually making her way in legit acting circles. Yeah, Janie Agater for if you miss seeing me do that, who was the B team of Next Gen's regulars? What would that cast have looked like if all the number 2s had acted? Of course, I don't think Marta Dubois would have played both Troy and Beverly. But there you go. It really, and all the series are like this. We just have this wonderful documentation for the Next Gen process. I don't know if we have the notes out there for all that. It's in somebody's file somewhere. Of course, now that we're in the digital era, all the Secret Hideout shows, I'm sure all the notes are. So maybe we have hard copies. I don't know, but somewhere out there digitally, this will be great fodder 20 and 30 years down the line to see who among us of current stars that we now know because of Star Trek, and who of the stars that were seen, especially around Toronto, who there is going to have a completely different connotation in 20 years when we see how careers play out. That's kind of the fun thing of the casting game. And, that happens across all Hollywood and all TV, too. If you're ever able to access, people have their memories. And, of course, as we've seen, memories can go fluey at times. But, hey, it's fun to have the actual paper, especially when we have like some of those where it was Bob's later comments on the casting process and seeing exactly what came down the pike. Anyway, I just seen a lot of, between the casting notices that still pop up, especially about Next Generation, and the welcome to the family news last week about everyone who's coming to the Strange New Worlds family. I thought casting was in the news and it would be a lot of fun to go there, guys. But yeah, what do you think? Anything, did I shock anybody there? So again, some of this has been out there. Some of this, if you just had read your Next Generation Companion, or whatever has been aggregated is the polite term on Memory Alpha or any other place. Some of that you may have known, some of it you didn't, because it hasn't all been out there. And the summary I was flying through there, maybe there's some obscure actor that you actually do know and might recognize from all the eras of that casting, the weeding out, the sifting of bodies and careers. And oh my God, just think what that means in the career. Some of these actors, Wesley Snipes, he's done just fine. Some of those other names I read off at the beginning, who knows what there's so much pressure. That's what's amazing. The resiliency of actors to go to audition after audition after audition and take that pounding, that rejection. It's bad enough when you're out doing an audition or an interview, you're auditioning for the role of whatever job, construction, desk job, whatever it might be, whatever title position or entry-level position it is. But you're not doing that day after day, constantly 24/7. I mean, maybe you are in the beginning, but after a while you have a resume, and that's true of actors. You have the ones who are read, the ones who are called in for meetings, much less the cattle calls. Has to do with the role. You never know when you're going to get a high-profile actor in a middle of the cast role, or will that be an up-and-coming new face who will take that one? And casting people have their wish lists, and they throw that net out there, and there are a lot of folks who have no need of a sequel syndicated sci-fi series. Oh my God, why should I tie up my career to a no-brainer like that will sink I'll take me out of the market for a year for nothing? Well, or it could be one of the greatest series ever devised in American series episodic television. It could be a crapshoot. Any show that gets to be huge, you can go back and where were they then? So much so with Next Generation and all the shows down the line to come in our neck of the woods anyway, including all the Secret Hideout shows. So that's fun. It'll be fun to watch that fly by as the years fly by. So yes, and congratulations to all of the folks who have come to the Star Trek family just in the last few years, if ever. The family grows bigger now, especially with each passing year. And now that we include, for the first time, voice talent. We don't see their faces until we get them in a shot with their cartoon character, with their animated character for signing at cons. We'll see that. But, welcome to the family for all of our faceless voice actors, too. So, guys, that's it. Maybe we stirred up some discussion here. I'm going to thankfully be where hopefully I can see straight. But I hope you enjoyed that. We're going to be back here in just a second. Going to take a break. Just all kinds of things happening fun today, like almost losing your signage in a major spill. But I just want to tell you real quickly, again, thanks for being here. Thanks again to all of our Patreons. We're here in part because of them, right? So thank you, everybody that's up here. You know who you are, right? Blaze K. Have I got everybody centered? There we go. Yeah. Blaze K and Robin Wilson and Lawrence Todd and Anne-Marie Siegel and Blake Arledge and Justin Porteous and Nathaniel Robinson. How about I do that? Yes. Hey, Rusty Harris. I can do this. Guys, I'm telling you, it's one of those days. It's one of those days, okay? Hey, Rusty Harrell, Jerry Cooper, you're our live wires. Halbert Good Johnson, Eli Irvin, Jalen Bullock, Gary Williams, Robert McNeil, Dan Leckie, and Casey Shasky. Big shout out for you too. Hey, if you want to help out with Patreon, mine's very simple as opposed to some of the other creators that have a big lineup of perks. I just have a $5 and a $10 over at patreon.com/Trekland Live. And we've been expanding the reach here on multi-stream, looking at maybe doing a few more things live stream wise, but I do appreciate the help. The live wires get access to some of our older Portal 47 backstage interviews. I say older, they're just earlier ones that some of the current Portales have not seen. I'm looking down at my lap, which is not a good look because I just want to remind you, we're coming up on 200 coming up on 200 episodes of Life Support Live. I've only missed 2 or 3 weeks, usually due to a holiday. I don't think I've ever missed due to sickness. Even when we have traveled on Tuesday, we've bumped to Wednesday or Thursday, or if we've been on the road and had bad wattage. So look, guys, we are coming up to show 200 in a couple of weeks. Today is the third Tuesday's live. So here's the thing. If you go to LarryNemecek.com, we're having a drawing on show 200 here on a Tuesday. We're going to draw live for a couple of books. I think they're back there. What do I have back there? No, not those 2 books. The new DS9 handbook and TNG or TOS, The Lost Scenes coffee table book from a couple years ago. I wound up with an extra one. So we're going to play 2 books live on show 200 in a couple of weeks. This is 198, so there you go. Some other things are happening too, including go to LarryNemecek.com, sign up for the prize drawings. Whether you're on my list now or not, go ahead. That's the sign up. That's all it is. Here's the thing. If you do it as a third Tuesday special, if you do it in the next 24 hours, this is very simple this year, this week, this month. The March third Tuesday special is just go sign up right now and you'll get 2 chances. Okay? That's 2 chances at either book. So instead of having 1 chance in the pot, you'll be in twice. So how can you do it? Hey, no money is transferring hands here. That's a simple one. Hopefully that's a fun one. And hopefully if you're new to TTL here on Tuesdays and didn't know that I had a news list, that I take polls and surveys and try to keep you up with what's happening in Trekland, as well as some other highlights around Star Trek. And there's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of things coming up very soon. But yeah, show 200 is happening. In a couple of weeks, I'm very thrilled to say our 50th episode for Life Support Live is happening. Every Saturday morning live, but of course it's there later on all my channels too. But Dr. Ali and Dr. Trek, one of us is a real doctor. We go boldly through uncertain times. 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. British UK time, GMT, whatever they're calling it these days. And 7 in Central Europe that night on Saturday. We have a great, great community of the lifers. Join us when you can. We're coming up on show 50, and we're having some specials coming up for that as well. And then, of course, hey, the Trek Files chugs along in our 6th season. We're halfway through the 6th season already. That's amazing. And we've got Lolita Faggio back talking about the memo this week and Michael Piller. So Lolita worked with Michael for ages. And, of course, Lolita's working on the team for the Voyager documentary. They actually still have time. They actually do have a stretch goal still up, guys, if you want to go check that out on Indiegogo. The Voyager documentary, you can find it on the socials. But we do have Lolita this week again on the Trek Files talking about Michael Piller. Please check it out and check out any back one. The memo we're talking about is up there as well. We're the only podcast with paper. And hey, just a quick update. Speaking of drives, and this was a GoFundMe for medical expenses up to $3,000 for Michael Braveheart, who was Ensign Martinez, Dr. Crusher's longtime familiar face nurse. Never got to talk, though. He's having some medical needs addressed and some stress in his life. And this is old. He's up over 1,000, thanks mainly to the Trek community. So just keeping that out there. Also want to thank the Trek and the gaming community, and congratulations to all the team, Elijah and all the gang at Priority One Podcast, my fellow Roddenberry podcast, although they started as independent. They just had their 500th episode last week. I should have tipped you off for it, but a lot of folks made it by. Of course, gaming is kind of their bread and butter, although they've expanded out to news too. They raised over $2,000 for a national food charity, food and hunger charity. So yeah, with the help, which was matched by Roddenberry. So lots of good stuff there. Speaking of a lot of Trek folk doing things, even here in the midst of the pandemic, even as we start to have a little light on the end of the tunnel at the horizon. So that's all good. So join me for all those if you can, and wherever you're watching now, just know that if you're with YouTube, that's my Twitter handle, just at Larry Nemecek. And on Facebook, Larry Nemecek's Trekland is my Instagram. Love to see you there. And of course, Portal 47 is your mini-con all year long. the package every month for Star Trek fans who had no idea how much Star Trek they had no idea about when we got Portales on here. So I'm going to take a break now here. We'll be saying goodbye to you on YouTube archives, but live and on Facebook, stay tuned. We'll be right here. Twitch, I'm actually going to talk to you if you're there. Okay. Hey guys, as always, thanks for joining us here. I know you've been at it in the community. I'm going to catch up here in just a second. But even if you don't see that, please, 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 don't let up now. Do what you need to do to stay healthy. Okay, do all the smart stuff. And when you're online and you can't see people face to face, you can't question people or where they're getting their information from. As you please do, stay woke, hashtag. I say, when you do that, it's a matter of checking the sources, okay? You can be woke to everything. Woke is not just about racism. It's woke to common sense. Let's keep our sanity. Let's keep our level head. That's me broadening the term. I hope I'm not watering it down. Because most of all, you know what I'm going to say. Till we see each other again. Truck well, everybody.